Good morning and good afternoon. So good morning for Europe and good afternoon for Asia. My name is Aurélien Orange from the Corax Foundation. We are here today in the second day match of this group phase. We have two universities who already had a match, and this time they have a second match on a different theme and topic in this competition. We'll have today Sofia University, represented by two students and as well the coach present in the room, and we have three students representing Kathmandu University, and as well I'm sure that the coach will be watching as well. They have been studying and as well exploring many topics related to space law in order to come prepared for this match. And of course, before we move to the topic and the debate and allocation of positions, of course, I will ask them to introduce themselves. So we start first with Miss Oyasui Tapa. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ojashri Thapa. I'm a third-year law student in Kathmandu University School of Law, and I'm extremely thrilled to be a part of this debate. Best of luck, everybody.
Thank you very much. Welcome. We have as well in Sofia Nedelina Stoyanova. Welcome.
Hello. Good evening or good morning to whatever the time zone is to everyone. I'm a second-year law student at Sofia University, and I wish us all good luck.
Thank you. Welcome. We have as well Aditi Karki in Kathmandu. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Aditi Karki. I am a third-year student of Business Management and Law here at Kathmandu University. Good luck to everybody.
Thank you. Welcome. We have as well Karolina Hristova in Sofia. Welcome.
Well, good afternoon to everyone. I'm a second-year law student in Sofia University. I'm really excited about this competition and wish good luck to all the participants.
Welcome. And we have as well Senea Adhikari in Kathmandu. Welcome.
Hi, I'm third-year law student at Kathmandu University School of Law. I'm looking forward to this debate. All the best, everybody.
Thank you. And now greetings as well to the two coaches. We have Miss Maya Angelova from our participant. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really excited for this debate. The topic is challenging, but I'm sure both teams will do great. And I wish all participants good luck.
Thank you. And as well, Mr. Martin Kushukov, as well from our participant.
Hello, all of you. I hope that you get the best out of this match, out of this competition, and I hope you have prepared well. As my teammate in coaching said, that this topic is very challenging. So I hope you have fun and you do your best.
Thank you very much. And we send greetings as well to Miss Shreya Yoshi, who is the coach for the Kathmandu University. I think he's based currently in Singapore, so I think it's even evening over there. So thank you. Now we move to the theme, the topic of this match that you received 1 week ago. That was mandatory enforcement of space debris mitigation measures is essential to the long-term viability of orbital environments under international space law. So now I will share my screen for the allocation of position, and we'll know live which position you will have for this match. Normally you should see a wheel with the dual flags and logos of your institutions. My apologies, by the way, for the shape of your flag in Nepal. I didn't manage to cut it correctly, but yes, this is the best way we can do for the moment. So for this, I would say match, you will have two chances, one chance to be in favor, one chance to be against. And I like to activate, of course, the randomizer. The team will be in favor, we start the match. So this is Sofia University will be in favor of the motion. As a consequence, that will be Kathmandu University will be against the motion. So it means concretely Sofia University will be starting the match and will be defending the position that the mandatory enforcement of space debris mitigation measures is essential to the long-term variability of orbital environments under international space law, while Kathmandu University will defend the position that the mandatory enforcement of space debris mitigation measures is not essential to the long-term variability of orbital environments under international space law. So now you will have 5 minutes to review your notes. You can close camera and mics, and then we will be starting the match with the introduction by Sofia University. So we are done with the 5 minutes of preparation for both teams. So I stop sharing my screen. And before we start officially the match, I remind that when you see the yellow card, it means that you still have 30 seconds to speak. And when you see the red card, it means that your time is over. You can finish your sentence, of course, but you may not start a new sentence. So now we'll hear the introduction on the side of Sofia University. For your introduction, you have 4 minutes.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are audible and visible.
Good afternoon to the fellow judges and to my colleagues from Kathmandu University. On behalf of myself and my teammate Nedalina, we are very pleased to discuss the topic why mandatory enforcement of space debris mitigation measures is essential for the long-term viability of orbital environments under international space law. In light of technological advancements witnessed across numerous countries, there has been a notable increase in the number of researches and experiments conducted in space, and therefore the issue of protecting orbital environment has become a prominent concern. According to the European Space Agency, there are about 3,000 dead satellites littering space, around 34,000 big objects of space junk, and millions of small objects of space junk. And having in mind this great number of space debris and also the risks it leads to, it is crucial to take mandatory enforcement measures to prevent the orbital environment. According to Article 7 of Outer Space Treaty, each state party which launches or procures launching of objects into outer space is liable for damages caused to another state party. But in order to have effective liability, we need mandatory measures. And in order to support our position, we would like to provide you with 3 additional arguments. Firstly, an effective approach such as mandatory measure is needed in order to prevent case-war syndrome from happening. Secondly, the mandatory enforcement of space debris mitigation measures improve the responsibility of states, as each state has means of control and monitoring to the others. Lastly, cleaning space debris is a slow, expensive, and sometimes even impossible process, and therefore we need strong preventative measures. To begin with, an effective approach such as mandatory measure is needed in order to prevent case-war syndrome from happening. The case-war syndrome describes a scenario in which space debris is so much that it sets off a chain reactions where more and more satellites collide and cause a new space debris. And when thinking about preventing this syndrome from happening, one of the biggest considerations is regulations. The United Nations adopted a pact for the future where they include an intention for the nations to discuss the establishment of frameworks for space debris. But what points most of the experts is that in order for the efforts to lead to effectiveness, we need means of enforcement. Space junk poses a risk to other satellites. It can also lead to a collision. And for example, we have collisions of a Chinese satellite in 2021 and also a collision between the US and Russia satellites in 2009. And these accidents have a long-term impact, so it is crucial to prevent them from happening. Moreover, the objects in space are continuously increasing, and this has been mentioned into the Section 2 of Orbits Act from 2023 of the Congress. And also, it is proved by the fact that several companies such as SpaceX and Amazon are planning to launch thousands of satellites into space for their own plans. This leads to a high risk of collisions and a bigger amount of space junk. Guidelines Trend 4 of the United Nations Debris Mitigation highlight the dangers mentioned above and aim to take measures to prevent them from happening. And considering the increase of space debris, the risk it leads to, and all the danger to the space environment, it's essential to implement mandatory debris mitigation measures to regulate and reduce the space debris and protect the long-term viability of orbital environments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we hear the introduction on the side of Kathmandu University. You have 4 minutes.
Hello, am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
So I'll be starting in 3, 2, 1. Honorable judges, esteemed opponents, and respected audience. The argument for strict enforcement of space debris mitigation measures sounds very convincing at first, but it ignores the realities of space governance, economic impact, and technological progress. While space debris is a challenge, mandatory enforcement is not the solution. And we oppose this motion because enforcing strict space debris laws would create more problems than it can solve. We will be arguing this in three key points. Number one, mandatory enforcement is impractical. Number two, it places an unfair economic burden on developing countries. And number three, technological innovations are the real solutions. So, firstly, I'd like to mention the major arguments of the opponent about the mandatory enforcement, and I would respectfully like to disagree with it and argue that mandatory enforcement is impractical. There is no global police to monitor this compliance. So, who will enforce these rules? Right now, space law is based on cooperations and not punishments. The Outer Space Treaty, which from now on we will be referring to as OST, and the liability conventions, they do not grant any agencies the authority to fine or penalize nations for the space debris. I will give you a very recent example that happened, a very recent example um, about how the appellate body of WTO, which is essential for resolving the trade disputes from around the world, has been non-functional since December 2020. And why is that? It is because US blocked the new membership appointments because of the Trump administration. So if a strong organization like WTO is struggling with enforcement, it raises concerns about the effectiveness of enforcing international space laws, especially regarding mandatory space debris mitigation measures. In 1978, Cosmo 954 incident proves how difficult it is to claim compensations. If states can barely agree on liability, then how will they agree on enforcement? Secondly, mandatory regulations would unfairly hurt developing countries because right now space is no longer just limited to US or Russia or China, because many developing nations are investing in space programs. Strict enforcement would mean higher costs for satellite launches, debris management, and this would only favor the wealthy nations while making space inaccessible to smaller countries. This creates an unfair system where only the richest countries can afford to operate in space. Finally, we propose to you a real solution, which is technological advancement, not more laws. The space industry is already working on self cleaning satellites and active debris removal systems. The European space agency's Clear Space One mission, which is to be commenced in 2026, aims to remove space junk. Private companies like Astroscales are developing methods to deorbit to remove the space junk. So, uh, so it is, instead of forcing nations to follow rigid, expensive laws, we should encourage innovation that naturally reduces debris. If space agencies and private companies are already taking actions voluntarily, then why should we introduce very strict and costly regulations? In conclusion, we agree that space debris is a challenge. We do not fight that. We are not against it. It is a challenge, but mandatory enforcement is not the answer. It is impractical, it is unfair, it is unnecessary, and that is why a better approach would be technological innovations. And with this, I submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we hear the first rebuttals. We hear first the rebuttal from Sofia University. You have 2 minutes.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you very much. Then I'll be starting now. Thank you to the opposing team for their arguments and their statements, but we would like to disagree with a couple of them. First, I would like to point out that the developing countries do not have the money to explore space at the moment, and they do not have the finances, the resources to talk about technological evolution. Technological evolution is something that is being developed by the richer countries. And I don't believe that laws are something that can restrict people or something that can stop people. Without laws, without regulations, a lot of the richer countries might get out of control when it comes to space debris, space exploration, and dominances in space as a whole. So laws is something that makes the use of space equal to all, not only rich countries, and is something that guarantees that developing countries can also become a part of space exploration at some point when they have enough resources to do that. Which leads us to our second argument, which is that states have a legal responsibility for space debris. And that is stated in the Liability Convention in its Article 1 and 2 of the said convention, meaning that they must take preventative action to avoid to avoid harming other nations. In the case of Canada versus the USSR, it is proven that the Soviet Union was forced to compensate Canada for the radioactive debris of a satellite crash. And if states are liable for damage on Earth, they should also be held accountable for space debris hazards that can harm satellites and future missions. And without enforcement, space debris will continue to grow, leading to costly collisions and avoidable liability claims, which is something we should all strive to avoid. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we hear the first rebuttal on the side of Kathmandu University. You have 2 minutes.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I'll be starting in 3, 2, 1. We understand the importance of space debris mitigation, but what we oppose is mandatory enforcement under international space law, as argued by our opponents from Sofia University. We respectfully disagree under 2 fronts. First, today's broken space law framework makes mandatory enforcement futile. Let me remind you of the failure of the Liability Convention, which my opponents argue should be mandatory. In 1978, a Soviet nuclear satellite crashed in Canada and scattered radioactive debris. Canada sued under the Liability Convention, the very Liability Convention that my friend has cited. It took 12 years to settle for just $3 million. Fast forward to 2009, and nothing changed. The iridium Cosmo collision created more than 2,000 debris pieces again, and no one was held liable. Why? Because the treaty requires proof of fault, which is nearly impossible when debris zips around at 17 miles per hour. And it's even harder to prove who is at fault for the estimated 170 million space debris stuck in outer space, unless the very structure of current international space law changes. Enforcing mandatory laws for countries based on such vague and toothless principle would be useless. Secondly, I remind you that for mandatory mitigation enforcement to actually work, countries all around the world must come together and sign a binding treaty with a strong enforcement mechanism, unlike the Outer Space Treaty, which is voluntary. But we all know how this scenario plays out. The US signed but never ratified the Kyoto Protocol in 1998. The same could happen with space debris if major polluters like US, China, or Russia refuse to sign treaties enforcing mandatory obligation. Again, reminding everyone that only 18 nations have ratified the 1979 Moon Agreement. None are major space powers. Why? Because states hate ceding control. Article 8 of the Outer Space Treaty even blocks the debris removal without the owner's consent. How do we get Russia's permission to clean up their Soviet-era junk? Instead, we should focus on a practical solution like incentive-driven compliance, scalable technology, and stronger voluntary IADC guidelines. Let's invest in real solution, not bureaucracy. Thank you. And with this, I submit.
Thank you very much. Now we move to the second rebuttals. We start with the second rebuttal on the side of Sofia University. You have 2 minutes.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Then I will be starting now. Now, thank you again to the opposing team for their arguments and their statements. But I would again kindly like to disagree, because when we speak of real solutions, why are we excluding laws? Why are we excluding the mandate? Because yes, it is true that countries, it's very hard to make them agree on something, to make them sign something that is very strict and especially the bigger, the richer countries. But we do believe as a team that laws is something that can help all countries and developing nations and rich countries that are all over space that cause debris to work in a strict, to work out strict rules that would be able to improve the issues of space debris, because space debris is something that we should strive to prevent in the first place, which is our third and final argument. As stated by the American Aerospace Corporation of the USA, cleaning up space debris is way too expensive and takes years, and that's why we need to prevent it in the first place. For example, in the Iridium 33 and Cosmos 2251 crash in 2009, no one was held responsible, even though thousands of debris pieces were created. Similarly, China's 2007 missile test that created over 3,000 pieces of debris had no sanctions be enforced. And cleanup methods like NASA's Electrodynamic Tether and European Space Agency ED-Orbit are unproven and very expensive. That is why space law should focus on preventing debris, not reacting to it. And countries should focus on protecting space, not creating debris and then figuring out a specific and then okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we hear the second rebuttal on the side of Kathmandu University. You have 2 minutes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Can you ever exert power over someone not to do certain action? No, right? The answer to their argument about preventing rather than reacting, we cannot impose any kind of strict laws against international bodies, cannot impose strict laws against state because that's their authority. So moving on with my argument, as Pelton notes, resistance to international oversight, mandatory laws could infringe on state sovereignty. Nations like the US, the China prefer nation control. The OST Article 2nd says space isn't subject to national appropriation, but does not side over launches. Mandatory rules might violate this autonomy. Let's get back to the case of Lotus Case 1927 between France and Turkey. States that the states had freedom due to the absence of prohibition. So no treaty has explicitly banned debris. So forcing mitigation lacks legal proceeding or legal grounds. Now moving on to my second argument, the Space Data Association reduces the collusion without mandates. The United States ODPSM 2019 sets strong voluntary precedents on mitigation of space debris adopted by many operators. And the Outer Space Treaty, Article 4, encourages responsibility via national measures. The voluntary guidelines align with this, avoiding heavy handed laws. Let's get back to the case of North Sea continental shelf 1969, Germany versus Denmark or Netherlands favored custom over obligation or absence of agreement. That means voluntary debris norms are emerging custom and that does not need mandates. Voluntary debris, voluntary actions have been working so well. That means mandatory laws enforcement do not have any placement and should not be executed because nations are not going to comply anyways, and it's the waste of time of international community. Rather, let's invest time in real life solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we've reached the conclusion, so I will give the floor to Sofia University for your conclusion. You have 2 minutes.
I'm audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
We would like to thank the opponents for their statements, but we would like to disagree with them. Our opponents pointed out that some accidents happened in space because the liability convention is not binding, and this only proves the fact that we need mandatory enforcement of space debris mitigation. When we rely on voluntary international acts or the will of some country, any accountability will not be held effectively, and because we don't have a mechanism to ensure the action of the countries. And when countries doesn't want to collaborate with one another, they won't. So we need a clear mechanism and a body to control and force the countries to compel international legal rules. Moreover, the technological developments which our opponents talk to are really expensive, and if the states are developing and don't have resources, they will continue to use other technologies which we'll call space debris, and this is only not an effective mechanism to prevent the orbital environments. Dear judges, first of all, we pointed out that an effective mechanism such as mandatory measure is needed in order to prevent Kessler syndrome from happening. Secondly, we pointed out that the mandatory enforcement of space debris mitigation measures improves the responsibility of states, as each state has means to control and monitor the others. And lastly, we addressed that cleaning space debris is a slow, expensive, sometimes even impossible process, and therefore we need strong preventative measures to protect the orbital environments. And we have illustrated through our arguments that the mandatory enforcement of space debris mitigation measures is essential to the long-term viability of orbital environments under international space law. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we hear the conclusion by Kathmandu University. You have 2 minutes.
Firstly, I'll be rebutting two major arguments, and then I'll be giving my summary. The opposition comes up and tells us that developing nations do not have the resources and finances for space evolution or tech evolution. Rather, let's see it in a futuristic way. If the mandatory enforcement is done today, the developing nations will have no longer route or direction to go to invest in such space evolution. However, the OST has laid the principle that space is for everybody and everybody can use that natural resources as a part of it. Now they talk about how it is such an expensive way. Can we trust a single authority or body to regulate such expensive way of mitigating such measures? Can these expenses be mitigated by the international body itself? They fail to address these issues. Now, what we gave you the idea in throughout the debate, we told you that mandatory enforcement is impractical. It is unfair to the developing nations. Technological innovation has no strict regulation, and the real solution is actually about finding something to do to mitigate the real life problem. And there have been difficulty to find proof of fault in existing legal landscape because of the lack of international space regulation, and there are lack of commitments from individual states in case of mandatory enforcement. We understand that space debris requires mitigation measure to the long term viability of orbital environment, but does the mandatory enforcement give the result what we are actually seeking for? No, because mandatory enforcement only exerts its pressure on certain states. But what have we seen? Because even though there have been regulations and policies existing that prohibit certain actions, but they've still been escalating such actions. Let's take Russia's action over Ukraine lately, and that is one of the important argument that we'd like to lay down. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We just heard both conclusions, so from now you are not under evaluation by the judge. So you can, of course, brief. You can as well rest a little bit because we are in the post-match phase of the session. It means from now we just collect your impression on this match, on the topic, on the preparation, the performance of both teams. After we'll do a bit of networking. So in order to ask your impression, I will start with first Miss Oyasui. Tapa, what did you think about this match, the topic, and the performance of both teams?
I think first of all, I think both the teams did really well, and about the topic and the research overall, the topic was very vague and it was actually really new to us. We didn't even have a superficial knowledge about space law, but after we got the topic, we were very firm on our research, and we can see that the opponent team were in the same wheels as well, and it was really informative. Both of the team's performance was really informative, and I think I learned a lot. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Miss Nedelina Stoyanova, what did you think about the match, the topic, and as well the performance?
Thank you. First, I would like to say thank you to the opposing team for the amazing match. I think it was very fun. The topic is something very interesting and something that should be, I think, discussed more, because the more we develop, the more we're going to look up to space. So being able to research and learn more from our own research and from the research done by the other team and their arguments, it's really interesting, and it was really a great match. So I'm very happy with it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Miss Aditi Karki, what do you think about the match?
I echo what my friends have said earlier. It is an incredible experience, first of all, to be able to participate and truly learn about so many different types of laws, and especially with this topic. We did know that space debris is a problem, but we did not know the scale of the problem that space debris posed in international sphere. And to be able to research, to learn, and to hear our wonderful friends from Sofia University argue so wonderfully, it truly was it truly was an experience that I will remember forever. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Miss Ristova, what do you think about the match?
And for me, it was also a really interesting match, and the opponents were really good. Also, I learned a lot of things while researching for this topic. I read a lot of facts and cases, and yes, it was really interesting for me, and it was an incredible experience.
Thank you. Miss Adikari, what do you think about the match?
Hi, I think this debate was absolutely good because it took quite a while to research about this topic because I have never even heard about space law before this. So I didn't even knew that it existed. And I think it just made me think so much and read so much and research and then, just the amount of information that I've grabbed from this debate and research is immense, and I'm really grateful to be part of this debate and to have witnessed this and to argue. And it was amazing. I think the opposition guys did really well, and they were keeping up with whatever we're saying. And I think the debate went on so fierce, and we were communicating with each other and arguing with each other's arguments. So it was quite fun and nice.
Thank you very much. And finally, I will ask the opinion of the two coaches. We start with Mr. Kyushukov. What do you think about the match?
Hello everyone, I hope you can hear me. So during our preparation for this match, it was actually very interesting because so as international space law is not so case related, we were able to find some cases, but most of the time we needed to rely on interpretation of the legal instruments. So it was very interesting because also during the last years of our participation, we actually were preparing more for environmental law and the topics that we were given. But now we were able to focus more on something new, which was also very exciting. And I think that both of the teams did great, and I hope that they'll be able to present their skills forward.
Thank you very much. And Miss Angelova, what did you think about the match?
Well, the match was for sure very interesting. It was very intriguing to watch. And actually, it was really great to see that the other team actually have come up with arguments that I think one argument that we haven't thought of. So really, it was nice to see their points of view on this topic and really to get new ideas on this very not serious but very modern problem that is yet to be resolved. So yeah, it for sure was very interesting and very enlightening on the topic of space law.
Thank you very much. So this topic is indeed quite special because space law is quite advanced in terms of law studies, but it's a mix of other areas of law as well in some aspects. So I hope indeed, and it's very practical. Of course, what's happening in the debris, the space with the debris is a problem that at some point will be for every nation. But yes, and we are very happy to have heard that debate already, and maybe to push you to explore this new area of flow. And now we are in the networking part. So for the networking part of the session, I would like to ask each team if you watch what has been done by the previous teams of your institution, because it's not the first time that Kathmandu is participating or Sofia University is participating. As well, if you got some support, outside of your team, if your family, friends, whoever actually in the faculty or in the university hears that you are presenting your university at this world competition. So we start first with the team from Kathmandu University. So yes, have you watched, and did you get other support from your coach as well? Who wants to start? Yeah. Mr. Dikari? Yeah.
Can you please repeat the question?
Yes, the question is if you have watched a match from other teams from your institution, other match, did you watch any match of other teams from your constitution or from your institution, not the constitution, and as well if you got any support from other persons than your teammates and coach, for example, the previous participants from Kathmandu University, did you have contact with them?
Yeah, we actually, first we did not know how the debate actually functioned, so we went through few of the final matches round in the YouTube of Corax Foundation, and then we asked our coach to help us, and then there was internal selection round, where they asked us, we had to do the debate, and we were quite confused at first, but we made to the finals and we won from our university, so that's how we got in. And unfortunately we could not have access to our seniors or alumni who participated in this debate before, because we are going through this exam season, so everybody is preparing and we haven't been able to do that. But our coach was a very good support for us throughout the debate, and our teachers have been helping us to regulate the question and to understand the motion well. So it was a good experience.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you want to add something? And did you mention the competition to your family and friends?
Yes, I'd like to add. My father is right there and he's very supportive right now, and he has a big smile on his face. I think he's proud of me. And I'd also like to thank my mom. She's also right there, and I'm really, really thankful to both of them. And my friends, Icha, Princess, Supriya, my wonderful teammates, Sneha and Ojasvi, our coach, Miss Shreya Joshi, and our teacher, Padma Miss. They really were so helpful. And I did watch the previous match of our friends from Sofia University, and I'd like to commend them. They were very incredible. And while I was learning their tactic, like how they debate, how are the debating skills, and what are the points they make, and it was I had to prepare a lot because they were so good. So yes, thank you.
Thank you. And maybe the third member, do you want to thank someone, or family, or friends, professors? Miss Tapa? Yep.
Oh, actually, I'd like to agree with everything that my teammates said. We had the support of our family, friends, coach, and teachers. And yes, it was a lot of self-research, but then it's always good to have so much support to you.
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Same question for the team from Sofia University. Miss Ristova, Miss Stoyanova. So could you tell how did you prepare? You have, of course, former participants among the coach as well. So yes, Miss Ristova?
I would like to thank to the Sofia University for the organization and the help for our participation in this competition. And I would really like to thank to our coaches because they learned us about a lot of things about the organization of the competition. They helped us in the research and it was really useful. And yes, I thank them really very, very much. And also the previous matches was really interesting and we can learn a lot of things from them because our opponents are a strong team and they debate very good. And it is really interesting to watch these teams how debate in different situations. Yes, and it was really useful. And I thank all the participants very much.
Thank you. Ms. Stoyanova, you want to add something?
I want to thank Sofia University and our coaches for the help and for the organization because our coaches have participated previously and watching their matches was really, really helpful. And they're also very supportive, which is great. And I really want to thank the opposing team as well because first of all, they debated amazingly. It was such a fun debate for me. And they have also been very, very kind through this entire time, which I am very, very happy for that and very thankful for that. When it comes to support, yeah, I think parents also play a very big role, as much as the university and our coaches. And me as well, my dad is really, really supportive of this and really happy about it. So, yeah, it was a really nice, very sweet moment that I just witnessed. So, thank you for that, to the opposing team for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So yes, it's great that you can connect indeed with the previous participants and as well with of course the faculty who is helping the students. So many thanks to both teams. Of course, the second match will have as well a third match. This third match will be in around 2 weeks. That will be against the other teams that you did not meet. So the last one, the University of Lusaka and King's College London. So these ones are having their match tomorrow between them, and then we'll know, of course, which of the 4 teams will go to the 8th of finals, the round of 16s. That will be, of course, at the end of April. But many thanks. That was a pleasure to hear you as well debating on space law this time, and for the third match, it will be on trade law. So that will be on international trade law, and you will know, of course, your topic 1 week in advance. So many thanks again, congratulations for this second match, and you will receive the result around the end of this week. Yeah, we'll be happy to share with you the grading rubrics again by these 3 different judges on the first match. So each time is 3 different judges. So thanks again, and wish you a great rest of the day, start of the week, because it's just the start of the week, and we keep in touch. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.